The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
What time is it?
I knew you'd come.
Delete! 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 Delete!
Bring Freddy Krueger's world, Elm Street. We want to see Bray Wyatt's version of the Boiler Room.
My name is Dario Cueto. My relationship with the wrestlers is very special.
And he's hanging out with Masquerita Sagrada in what looks like his basement. And then his mom shows up with bagel bites. It's glorious.
Oh, that's awesome.
We are scientifically proven to be the best tag team, and not just in NXT, not just in the WWE, but in the entire universe.
Alexa, the new SmackDown Women's Champion. However, some underhanded tactics at the end of that.
I'm sorry, underhanded? How dare you? I'm just willing to do whatever it takes to win. And you know what that got me? The title of first ever two-time SmackDown Women's Champion. Now, if you excuse me, I gotta get these ugly plates taken off of my title.
Ladies and gentlemen, wrestling to the max.
And your hosts, Gary Vaughn, Sean Garmer, and Paul Vieser.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Wrestling to the Max, episode 235, part 2. And we are in store for a great one for you guys, so we hope you enjoy it. And we are going to be talking a lot about a bunch of different news topics. We're going to be getting into another wrestling passing of I don't want to say a legend, but someone who, was a wrestler that you may have heard of that sadly passed away, along with some other great news about, what's going on with TNA. They have a little bit of an update with their lawsuit. Plus, we're also going to be getting into some other great content, like what's going on with a certain big indie star and what promotion he's going to be signing with. So trust me, there's lots more great stuff I'm not even mentioning to you guys because I want you to go check it out in quick hits this week. Plus, we are going to be jumping into some TNA Impact wrestling talk. We're going to be getting into the full show. Of course, that big marriage ceremony was going to be taking place, so you don't want to miss us talking about the whole show, everything the Hardys were doing on that episode. There's a lot of great content when it comes to Impact Wrestling this week. And we are also going to quickly preview this weekend's big show for New Japan and Ring of Honor, Honor Rising. So you're not going to want to miss a minute of the show. I'm looking forward to it. We hope you are too. And if you want to find everything that we have to offer, guys, there's only one way to do it, and that is, of course, go checking out W2Mnet.com. That's right. That's the website that you go. You find all our podcasts. You find all the great written reviews that you may or may not have seen. And, of course, go find out all the other things the site has to offer. Also, hey, for you guys and gals out there that just want to go and sit and listen to a podcast, maybe while you're working, driving in your car, or whatever you're doing, you can always check us out on whatever you use to listen to us, like iTunes or Podbeam or whatever you have in your possession. Make sure you go subscribe to Wrestling to the Max. That's right. That's the way you can go get all our great content in the dock whenever you want it. Right after we do the show, it will be right there waiting for you. Also, don't forget, if you want to get more than just us, go to the W2M Network and subscribe to that. Because trust me, you don't just get our wrestling show. You get other great wrestling shows on the network. Plus, you get a lot of other sports and other great content that, trust me, you don't want to miss. It's all great. I love it, so we know you will too. But, of course, once again, I am your host, Gary Vaughn, and tonight Sean is on hiatus. I think he's visiting with the Sandman, and I don't mean the guy from ECW. I think literally the guy that helps you sleep or whatever. But with me tonight is Mr. Paul Vieser. What's going on, man?
What's up, man? I'm trying to imagine Sean actually meeting the Sandman in real life right now.
Oh, which version are you talking about? The one that has a kendo stick drinking beer, or what? Or the actual mystical
the
Sandman.
First one. But what if it's the first one that actually helps you sleep at night? We just don't know it. Like he's just throwing beer and kendo sticks at your face for a while until you fall asleep.
Well, people don't get to hear our sign-offs. We'll get done with the show. We'll kind of chit-chat about next week, what we're doing, whatever, needs to be taking place for the website or just the podcast in general. And, a lot of times my sign-off will be, okay, guys, well, it's nice talking to you, but I got to go meet the Sandman. He's going to beat me to sleep with his kendo stick. So, and it would not surprise me one day if that happens if I ever meet the Sandman. But no, it would be hilarious. I would love to see that meeting between Sean and the Sandman. It'd be worthy of definitely a Facebook Live, I think.
Yeah, so. I picture Sean not really knowing what to do.
Can I get you some beer? What can we do? I don't know. It's kind of awkward. Yeah, so. No, Sean deserves a break. The guy really does a lot of hard work. He works on the website all the time. And not only that, he not only does our show, he actually is on a couple of other podcasts, as well as producing other podcasts on our network. So, he's a lot of behind the scenes, there's a lot of on air, and of course, and editing all the different content for the website. So he's a hardworking man. It's nice to give him a break when he needs it, and I think he really needs it because we try to contact him, and I think he's asleep, but that's fine. I hope he gets a chance to rest. The man needs it. But yeah, Paul, I know we got a lot of wrestling stuff to talk about, but I'll say this, it's crazy when you get into all these different, situations when you're going through your everyday life. And I noticed, in my everyday life, especially when it gets warmer here, I go to the park more often. And so I take my daughter to the park and things like that. And, I always thought, no, I'm a pretty outgoing person, I think. But, I find out how much of a recluse I am when I go to the park with a bunch of strangers. And I'm like, okay, do I want to talk to the people at the park with me? Or do I just want to push my daughter on the swing and please don't talk to me? I don't know. It's so bad to say. I was talking to a coworker about this the other day, and it's just like, man, you're just always on guard, and I hate that we're like that now because you're always worried. Like one day at the park, a little girl needed help getting up the ladder, and I'm like, I'm here. Parents are over way across the other part of the park. Do I help this kid, let her fall down, or some parent yelling at me, "Don't touch my kid"?
Yeah, other kids is rough, especially strangers' children. And I'm with you too on talking to strangers. Like I've gotten much better about it as I've gotten older, and working retail, it's kind of your job, so you get used to it. But it's not something I'm a giant fan of in general. But yeah, other people's kids it's so dicey nowadays. You have all these people thinking you're the worst human being alive when they don't even know who you are.
Yeah. Exactly, and I'm just that weird guy, over there, and so I just it's so weird, because like I said, I'm getting back out there in front of people because when it's colder, you get a chance to stay in. I see people at the grocery store and things like that, but that's in passing. You're not kind of stuck in the same area. You're kind of moving around. So I don't know. I was just thinking about that today. I was like, man, why am I like that? I should be more outgoing and not afraid. But that's the way we kind of, like you said, kind of today's world is. They kind of scare you into submission. I
think the burning question on everybody's mind, Gary, is: does Lily make you go down the slide?
Hey, you know what? I've done it, and it wasn't even her suggestion. It was my own because I said that looks fun. So but no other kids were there when I did that. No, that doesn't really say that. I don't do it when other kids are there. I've even went down the fire pole. I've done all those fun things again just because I wanted to do it again. I miss it. But I'm
just imagining you cutting in front of kids now. Out of the way, kid. It's my turn.
Listen, this is my slide. You do not touch it ever again. Serve the thing. No, shut up. Get off it. Yeah. Could you imagine? Woof. No, but sometimes you're gonna be childlike, and there's that new Beauty and the Beast movie coming out, and
I'm so ready to see it, man.
Yeah, me and my wife were, not sure we were gonna go see it, and a couple that we're friends with, like, hey, y'all want to go see that? So we're debating on it. We may actually go see this movie without my daughter, and it's going to be kind of a weird thing. But we were like, maybe we should make a date night thing out of this, a couples date or something. Go see this movie. So it's weird to say. I every week people hear about my kid, but some of these things I want to do on my own, and we'll see if we do it. We'll probably to pay her back for not taking her to Beauty and the Beast will be Disney on Ice, I think. Well, I think we're going to take her to Disney on Ice.
It's a great show, man. I've been really just for fun. So it's a great show. Yeah, she'll love it.
So, well, there you go. So, enough kid talk and everything. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there, what's going on with me and some of my awkward moments. So, if you ever hear me get awkward on this show, now you know what I'm all about,
We're just living reality there, because Lord knows I have my own share on here.
It's okay. We all got to be us, So, but yeah, we got lots of wrestling to talk about tonight. I'm really excited about it. So why don't we go ahead and jump into it, and let's talk a few quick hits here. And before we jump in, and we got a lot of quick hits on our docket here, and I'm going to jump into them. But before we do, Paul, I didn't mention to you this off here. I just want to throw this one out there really quickly because I read about this, and I just want to know your opinion. And I may even ask Sean on Monday about this, but I was just reading in the news that we had another incident where WWE is getting blamed, or at least a wrestler from WWE is getting blamed for someone doing something that's not good. And it's nothing terrible. No one got killed or anything. But a kid in Florida took a list to school, and it was his list, kind of like Jericho has the list. But he called his the kill list, and took it to school. Of course, parents get involved, all that, police get involved, and they're pretty much saying, oh, it's WB. Yeah, it's their fault. Jericho has that list. It's just a kid following his example. He didn't mean anything by it, I want to know what you think. It's so funny. WB's still getting blamed for things. Superstars are still getting blamed for things. I think some way, somehow, people got to start taking, credit for their own mistakes, and I think that, sure, it may have been based on the list, but Jericho has never once said we're going to kill somebody or anything like that. He was just saying, you're on the list, and things like that.
I'm kicking myself because I have a big note sitting right here next to me to bring up whether we want to talk about this on the show or not, and I completely forgot to talk about this with you before we went live. So there's that. This is nothing new, right? This has been stuff that you hear about since I was a kid. I'm sure it's been stuff that has been around since, the creation of television, or maybe even radio for all I know. But kids emulate what they see, and, you figure at least by this point in time, parents would realize that it's kind of your job to watch your kid. And, obviously you can't be with them all the time. I know that. I think the world knows that. But, I mean, Chris Jericho, you're right. He makes a list, and seemingly they've done very little to the people that make the list other than just making the list. And kill lists, obviously, it's still something that should be taken seriously, right? Because you never know if he shows up one day with a gun. And the article I read, the kid said it was a joke. And the parents got freaked out enough that they didn't send their children to school if they were on the list. They let them skip a couple of days, so... it's a big deal in the fact that, hey, I mean, maybe this kid really needs some help, but, I mean, blaming WWE and all this seems... I mean, and I maybe I don't have any room to talk because I'm not a parent, but I do spend a lot of time with young children because my friends obviously have kids. I hang out with them quite often, and, if it was one of the kids that I sort of treat as my own, I'd be a little miffed and kind of upset with myself, why didn't I see this coming, or... why didn't I pay enough attention to see him maybe trying to work on a list of saying, people to murder?
Yeah. You may just kind of notice that in his room somewhere, at the kitchen table while he's eating his Pop-Tart, writing down people's names,
Yeah, right?
What you doing there, kid? Oh, we got people I want to kill. Oh, cool. No,
that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. You want some more milk? So, we're joking about this, and this kind of is a serious thing. I get it. I mean, we've sadly seen school tragedies, and you always think to yourself after those tragedies happen, well, why didn't they see it coming? There had to be someone who knew. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, honestly, there were signs. There were things that were pointed out later after the fact. Oh, yeah, I knew about it. I just didn't think it was serious. Or I didn't want to get him in trouble, or things like that. The things come out later, and I'm glad that they caught this before anything really honestly happened. Now, they're blowing this off like the kid was just blowing off steam. This was his own little list. But I mean, and you're right. Maybe this is kind of a topic that people are going to be, guys, you're talking about something that happens all the time. Yeah, well, I know, but this is why I bring it up, and primarily for this reason. Because things have changed so much since, Paul, since you were a kid. Things have changed so much since I was a kid. And words, it seems like now mean so much more. And just because of the way our society holds things, we are sensitive, and our society is more sensitive. Is that wrong? I don't think it's really wrong. It gets annoying sometimes, to be honest with you. But then again, there are some things that the older generations were not sensitive enough about, and I think it really hurt people. So I think we have to be a little bit on the medium side on this, but you got to take kids serious. And when things like this come up, you've got to find a way to address it. And sure, it's fine. They want to put WB in harm's way and say that's their fault. There's nothing new. Beavis and Butthead had to change their show because a kid burned a house down. Things like that. It's just the way things work out. WB's not immune. They're immune to this kind of stuff almost in a way because they get things thrown at them all the time. So I don't think this is a big deal for that. I just wanted to bring it up because of the way our society is now and how, we can take it from this generation and how they are dealing with, this kind of stuff. So,
right.
But anyway, we'll move past that. We've got other things that really are interesting to talk about. And want to start off with a, sad passing of a former wrestler, and to be honest with you, I'm not sure I can say his name right, so I'm going to let Paul do that, but I'll just let you know his wrestling name. He, of course, was Bruiser Bedlam, and you may also know him as Johnny K9. But Paul, I'll let you actually state his true name, but he died at 53. So sad.
Ion Kritoru. He's French-Canadian, if I'm remembering correctly, and if you don't remember this guy, I don't blame you, because when Sean originally texted me about his passing, he sent me Johnny K9, and it wasn't a name I recognized, but I do recognize Bruiser Bedlam, and that's because that was his name in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, where he's a former TV champion for them, and he's a really big, tough guy, and worked in the WWF in the mid to late 80s. And he wasn't really much more than a jobber. But he had runs with championships and other promotions like Smoky Mountain or like the AWA. Even did tours with New Japan, and I don't know if people even remember these promotions anymore, unless you're super into the Japanese scene. But FMW, Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling, and WAR, Wrestle Association R, he did tours with them. He's done a lot of work, and he's even trained some wrestlers, too. So, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there hurting. This guy's had tons of legal problems, though. Like, he's a motorcycle gang member. He's been convicted of murder.
Wow.
Yeah, like, there's some rough stuff out there. But still, I mean, it's sad. We don't know what he died of. He was found dead, I think, 2 days ago.
Yeah, in a halfway house, and that just kind of shows you where he was in life. And it's so sad to see guys go down this path, and to see that these kind of things happen to people that have been in the limelight at one time or another. And this guy may not have had a huge name, but we wanted to mention it, and we wanted people to know about it. And he's been a part of a lot of different promotions. He's done some things that have really, been good for wrestling, entertained people, and, gave, a lot of time to the world of wrestling. So we wanted to make it known and give him his due because, once again, he did, something to really kind of further wrestling. Mm-hmm. But yeah, sadly, I mean, I wish I had more to say. I'm just so unfamiliar with the guy. So I don't want anybody to think we're shortchanging him. It's just, honestly, unless Paul has a lot more to bring, I don't have a lot to bring to the table on that one. So.
No, I mean it's really unless you're into the old school scene like that. I think it's hard to really know a lot of these guys. So we might bring up that maybe there have been times I think we've left off people who we just didn't know because we didn't have anything to say. But I mean certainly it's still. I mean he was a person. He mattered, even if he was a convicted criminal. I mean it's still sad that he died.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
oh yeah, three. Leaves behind a wife and 3 children, and that's sad enough. And 53, like we just talked about this. I think we were talking about 68 or something. It's not old. 53 is definitely not old.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
But let's change here and let's get into some better news. And this is news that we've kind of covered, but not really news that we have confirmed. And now we can finally confirm it. Zack Sabre Jr. is now a part of New Japan. So he's a concrete member, and he'll be facing off against Shibata for the Rev Pro heavyweight title. And that's cool. That's really good news. And something else that's kind of to throw in the mix here. New Japan will pretty much be his home base. He'll be doing a lot of his main stuff with New Japan, along with Cody Rhodes, who's also going to be following that path. He'll be spending a lot more time with New Japan than in any other promotion. So New Japan just got 2 big stars, and they'll probably really help this company.
I think this is, and obviously calling a promotion your home promotion usually just means that if they have bookings for you, they get priority. And with these 2 guys, Zack Sabre Jr. obviously might be one of the best, if not the best wrestler out there working right now, although I'm sure big AJ Styles fans like myself might have something to say about that too. And Cody Rhodes, I don't think there's anybody with as big a social media footprint or is just as big who's made as much waves on the independent circuit as he has. Not for his wrestling ability, just simply for the aura. He's like this big league superstar that's coming to all these shows now, and I think this is a huge deal. He's wrestling Shibata. I think it's at the 45th anniversary show for New Japan, which I believe is March 6th, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't have the date in front of me, but it's a huge deal. It's already being reported that Sabre's going to be in the Best of the Super Juniors tournament later, which with the roster that they're building for the junior heavyweights could be an absolutely monster junior heavyweight tournament. So get excited. I am.
Oh, yeah. That is going to be awesome. I really can't wait, to be honest with you. This is going to be a lot of fun. And, I'll say this. I mean, I think that, people have seen Zack Sabre Jr. and say, well, man, yeah, he's great, but we'll still see him do other things. But I'm just excited about the fact that, he's going to be having some just excellent matches in New Japan. And with Kenny Omega sticking around over there, and now you've got Cody Rhodes, it's just getting better and better. And so, I mean, this is going to be something that's really going to help for New Japan this year. It's going to be great match after great match after great match. And, I mean, my goodness, it's wow. That's what's good over there. I want to talk about really quickly here. We just saw on SmackDown Live Naomi having to give up the women's title. And she had to hand it over, and of course we did see, later on Alexa Bliss did win that title to become the first 2-time SmackDown Women's Champion. But the deal about Naomi is that, she really is injured here, and this isn't just to get the title off her. No, her knee really is messed up. In fact, we're hearing that it's kind of being compared to Seth Rollins' knee injury. And she's looking about maybe close to 2 months on the shelf. I mean, this is kind of sad, Paul. I mean, we kind of talked about this on the SmackDown Live and kind of brought it up on that review show. But just to kind of touch on it again, I mean, this is definitely past WrestleMania. And this poor girl, I mean, she just cannot, win right now.
Yeah, I want to talk about this because, one, it's such a clearer picture. And, two, I mean, She did this doing the split-legged moonsault, it's being said. So, I mean, obviously her finisher might be getting reworked at some point now, because if this is going to be a common occurrence or what have you, it could have just been a freak accident for all we know too. But usually when something like this happens and it derails them this badly, they usually get a reworked finish. So I'd say be on the lookout for that. But yeah, I mean, Seth Rollins, they're already talking about him being around still for WrestleMania to do the match with Triple H still. So there's that, and for this to happen to Naomi, like, this is shit. I mean, it's such a minor, like 2 months is a short time, especially in comparison whenever we talk about big injuries on here. You look at Finn Balor, who's been out 6 to 8 months, almost 9 now, and it's incredible. Like, the just timing is. It's such a short injury, but it screws up all your momentum that you just gained, and I feel so bad for her now, because it was believed that she was going to be good to go this week for SmackDown, and they got the news, and there it goes.
Yeah. And, you look at this and you say, man, Seth Rollins has had a tough time, and he has. And now you're looking at Naomi and the chances and the opportunities that she's missing because of this type of stuff. And you can't help it. I mean, these are freak injuries, things that, really honestly, you watch them in the match and you just say, oh, that's normal. And then the next thing you know, they're on the shelf and you're like, what the heck? I remember watching, the Seth Rollins match, and I really never even saw him get injured, And I think the same with Naomi. I don't think anybody really saw it. It just happened, and it's a freak thing. And, we always, sit here and say, oh, man, they're wrestlers. Let's be honest. They have a choreographed match, right? For the most part. But these guys and gals are putting their body through the ringer every night. And I think a lot of times it's easy to forget that. And the fact that they are athletes, and they're no different than a basketball player, baseball, football player, hockey, whatever sport, soccer, they put their body on the line just as much as those people, and those people get injured. And these people in wrestling actually go out there 2-3 nights in a row, and some, and especially on the indie circuit, even more than that if they really work a just big schedule. Mm-hmm. And WWE is known to have a heavy schedule. So, and you feel bad for Naomi, but you have to understand, that these things happen, and hopefully there are better days for her. Same with Seth Rollins, people like that. So it's a shame. I feel terrible, really terrible for her. So. There, has been a lot of talk about, Impact Wrestling, and Jeff Jarrett's now over there. And he's kind of made his return to the company, along with some other old faces, including, Paul, one that I think it's kind of interesting. They're bringing Kevin Sullivan back over to Impact Wrestling as well. Yep. So, it seems like we're kind of going back to the glory days of Impact Wrestling. And we're also getting back to Impact Wrestling trying to do things the right way. And we just saw recently Jeff Jarrett headed over to talk to some of those folks over at ITV who actually do the World of Sport, which they had a big show, and they want to continue that. They're just not in, exactly I think where they want to be to do a weekly show for World of Sport. But I think Jeff Jarrett's over there, and he's trying to negotiate some things. And they're trying to negotiate also for Anthem, because Anthem wants to get involved. This is all about distribution, really. This is about getting ITV's product over to the States, and the same with TNA. They're really considering putting the World of Sport on the Fight Network and things like that. So there's lots of discussions going on here, Paul. But kind of give me your thoughts on what Jeff Jarrett, what Anthem, and of course the ITV want to do together.
This is really interesting, because originally we thought they were going over there to work out a working relationship just specifically for TNA. The last time we talked about this, now it's sort of a bigger deal that Anthem. So what ITV is looking for, I should say first, is they're looking for people in the wrestling business to try to help them to monetize the brand and get global distribution, as Gary said. And it seems, obviously, this is such a smart idea that I honestly wonder if this is how American channels work, because I don't think it does at times. But they're looking for people outside to come in and sort of help them try to make money off of this thing that they have. And that's where Anthem and Jeff Jarrett and all these guys are stepping in. So, obviously, a working relationship could still come out of all of this, but it seems more like, instead of that, it's more to help launch ITV on the Fight Network and try to get it outside of England and running more often, because they've only run the one show so far, and that's about it. And Anthem obviously would have to put money in, which we've seen so far hasn't been a huge problem for them. They would get in exchange, they would obviously own some of the promotion, and then they would have some other responsibilities that haven't been listed. But there's apparently a lot of talk going on over there. Jeff Jarrett did an interview in England too, talking about this, as well as maybe possibly we keep hearing stuff about Impact Wrestling doing tours in England again, and it seems like that's another reason why Jeff has been over there so often too.
Yeah, and it seems like Jeff Jarrett's been doing this for quite a while. He knows what he's doing when it comes to trying to spread whatever product he's selling. We've seen this with GFW and Global Force Wrestling. and trying to get, that going and going to visit other promotions, going and visiting, with the TV networks and trying to find a way to get his product across. But now basically Anthem and him are in a partnership, right? And Anthem has a lot more money and they have more pull, I think, because I think they can actually walk into a room and hold some, not saying credibility, but they hold a little bit more weight, I think, with Jeff Jarrett together. And I think it gets him to open more doors than Jeff Jarrett by himself, or maybe even just Anthem by themselves. So, saying all that, I think that, what they're doing here is not a bad idea. And if you want Impact Wrestling to go anywhere, you've got to do some things differently, and they're trying and they're working their way, and they want to get back to that scene, and especially in the UK where they were being supported really heavily. People in the UK love TNA, and you've seen that kind of dissipate, and I think they're trying to get that back, and they're also trying to spread out, and whether it's maybe giving up a little bit of the promotion or buying into another promotion, they're trying to work things out. So it seems like this is a good process to go through to kind of see where everybody stands, I think. And if they can make a deal, I think it'd be great. I mean, I think it'd be something that's special and awesome. I just want to know what the end game is going to be, and I don't think we're going to see that for a while.
Right.
I don't know when, but it's not going to be tomorrow for sure. But I'm very interested in the world of sport. I really, really am. It's been, something that I think people have wanted to come back in Britain, in the UK, but I just don't know how soon that thing's going to get turned around. So we'll see.
It's one of those things that's really if it's got WWE trying to work and get stuff going in the UK faster, then it's got to be something worth looking into, because obviously ITV is one of the bigger channels in England. It probably has a lot of money behind it. If they pair up with Anthem here, maybe that makes it an even stronger competitive brand that we would have to pay attention to down the line. So I agree with you. I find it really interesting, though, that Impact and Anthem, they're bringing back all of these older people who were with TNA during their more successful times, like Jeff Jarrett, like Scott D'Amore, now like Kevin Sullivan. I'm blanking on the other one too. Seb Coulter. It's not his real name at all. Dutch Mantel. That's it.
Yeah, there you go.
And they're sort of looking to them to lead them back, even in towards that direction that they used to be in. And it's weird how that sort of comes back around, right? I mean, never in the world would I have thought that we would be. I mean, TNA's almost if Dusty were still alive and he was here, it would be almost like we were back watching TNA in 2005, 2006.
Yeah. And then they would be having to bring back some of their old guys, right? Bring back, Christopher Daniels, right? I think was in there. AJ Styles,
Saban.
Ring of Honor, basically now.
Yeah.
Without AJ Styles. No, you're right, and I kind of find that interesting as well. I mean, I understand the thought process. One was Impact Wrestling at its best. Well, there you go. That was the staff. That was the core. Guys with creative guys, running the company pretty much. And, it's worth a shot. I think that, if I'm going to knock it at all, I think maybe they could find newer, younger blood to throw in there. Mm-hmm. But, once again, you go with what you know works. And in the past, it worked. Now, will it work now? I can't say that. I don't know. This is not 2005, 2006. This is, 2017. So things have changed a lot in wrestling. Things have changed a lot in the fans since then. I mean, this is a different group of people watching wrestling now. You've got a lot of the same people, but you also have newer fans, and some fans have left.
Right.
So you have to remember that.
There's so many more alternatives out there now too, instead of just TNA and Ring of Honor. Now the game has gotten so much wider. So, I mean, yeah, it's a big hole to try to climb out of, but I don't think we've seen it on TV yet. But as far as what they're doing behind the scenes, they're trying like the Dickens to keep this thing going.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, I wish the best for him. I really do. And I know a lot of people are to say, oh, man, TNA or Impact. I keep saying TNA, but it'll probably go back to just being Impact. But Impact is a show that, they're trying their best. They're working in people that you've maybe never seen. They're trying to do all these things to help improve their product, and I really hope it works out. I do. I don't want to see them fail. So. But we'll continue to follow that whole storyline and see where they go. Now, WB has their own things in the works. Paul just mentioned it. They're trying to get over there in the UK and do some different things. They've actually got a partnership on little contract, a deal that they have in place that's still on the table for ICW. And the only reason this really hasn't gone through yet, though, is not just about ICW. It really revolves around WB itself. There's two things here. Vince McMahon is not sure. He keeps flip-flopping. If he wants it, doesn't want it, he doesn't know. So this has kind of held the deal back so far. Also, we're kind of seeing that, WWE wants ICW to get their trademarks in order, like their theme music that, the entrances have. So there's some things that have kind of kept WWE back. But, Paul, do you eventually see this happening, or do you think some of these things that we're kind of seeing stalemate this process, kind of keeping them from never doing it?
This is rough, right? Because before we didn't know how big a hand Vince really had in all this, and if it's on him now, then maybe this decision is going to take much, much longer than we thought, because not only does this affect, ICW's possible distribution and all that, but, Progress has been mentioned before as well, so we could, obviously there could have been multiple promotions here, and this could set a standard for a bunch of other things, and I think it's right to be cautious, right? You're dedicating your own resources to companies outside of your own, and that's something I don't think they want to undertake unless they know that, their house is in order, like the trademarks, because they don't want to be paying extra money than what they're already going to be doing to try to get ICW and Progress up to run on the network for whenever they decide to do that, right? So I see it happening eventually, because I think they need this deal if the UK thing is going to succeed, and they seem pretty intent on making sure that is a success, because it's the linchpin, I think, to their global movement that they're trying to undertake right now. I think the time frame is going to be much longer than we ever thought it was going to be now.
Yeah. Exactly. And, like I said, the, process may take a while, but, we're hoping that at least, the content, that they have, in this whole thing does come into play, because I feel like it would definitely benefit the network to have ICW. I really, really do. And I hope it all does kind of fall into place. To me, this is something that could really benefit not only, just, the ICW, but it could benefit fans a whole lot. And of course, the network needs this. So, yeah, let's look at something else that's kind of interesting that we just recently heard, and that is that we have Billie Kay from NXT. Actually, looks like she may have injured her neck recently at some TV tapings. That's some bad news because, Billie Kay, we want to see more and see, her continue to grow in NXT. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, this really sucks, because obviously her act with Peyton Royce is the top thing as far as heels go in NXT right now for the women's division, maybe outside of Nikki Cross right now. So, it'd be a big blow to the division if she goes. It's a big blow to my fan. I'm a huge fan of Billie Kay. I've been following her for a long time before she even stepped foot in NXT and all that, so I have that going for me too. But it looks like she might have taken the injury off of the Eclipse from Ember Moon at one of these shows. She left on her own power, which is a good sign, but she was holding her neck and apparently crying. So it could be nothing, it could be something, but it's not something major, because if she can walk, then obviously it can't be too bad, right? Because necks are obviously very sensitive. There's a lot of stuff going on there. That's it's where a lot of the stuff that makes you work is, as far as spinal cord and all that. So if you can walk, it can't be all that bad, but it might be something to keep in mind as we move forward.
Yeah, for sure. And man, that just bums me out too, because she's got some great, things going with her and Peyton Royce. And, of course, I'm sure she's going to work on some of her own stuff in the near future, being a single superstar. I hate to hear this. This is never good. So best wishes to her. Hopefully Absolutely. She heals up quickly. And really quickly, I want to also mention, and I should have mentioned this when we were talking about Impact, really, people coming back to Impact. I just want to let everybody know that we have Michael Bennett and Maria Bennett re-signing with Impact. So that's good for them, I think, because I think for the most part, I kind of thought they were going to be walking out that door. I didn't think they were sticking around, but maybe the changes in, over there in TNA have kind of kept them around.
Yeah, initial reports cited a year, and some of them have no time frame listed, so I didn't want to list anything, but it could be as short as a year, it could be longer for all we know, but they have re-signed. I think it's more to keep Maria around because she's definitely been the more entertaining half of this couple. But they've treated Mike Bennett like a big deal. They want him to be something, and it looks like they're not ready to give up on that yet. So, good for them. This is two people who they've had in big angles ever since they showed up. So it's good that they stuck around.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And, it's very true. I think, Maria gives, more entertainment just because of the fact that she, has the whole drama thing and just really good at being on the mic. And, Bennett's fine. But really, Bennett has not had the time. I'm trying to think how I want to say this. He's been good, but he's not been great.
Right.
He's been that guy that's right there in the matches, but he just never really overly impresses you. And I think that's kind of why he's become second fiddle here. But, at least he's back there, right? At least they're going to get a chance together to be a part of Impact. So I'm happy for him. I really am. Let's move on to two last things, okay? And these are both court cases, so we're going to kind of lump them up together. We'll talk about them separately still, but I just want to make this kind of the last thing we're talking about here on Quick Hits. And let's start with the WWE. We saw recently, it's just sadly, a slew of wrestlers pass away. And, we've had all these wrestlers be a part of WWF, WWE at some point, right? And we've seen this big lawsuit that has come where a lot of wrestlers have signed this, deal to be together and sue WWE for concussions and, the lasting effects and all that kind of thing. And we've talked about this before. What do you think about this? It seems like that they're kind of up, a little bit up in their game here, Paul. They're trying to get this thing done quicker because of these, deaths.
Yeah, this is just, I think, a rock and a hard place almost for WWE. But this is almost like a shitty thing to do. Like, it hasn't been very long. Like, it's been a week, and I think we've talked 4 to 5 wrestlers die, and They've cited Snuka and some of the other ones in this too, and there are some in there that you could maybe say the concussions and the schedule that they worked and all that might have contributed to what led to them. But some of them have been dying of cancer. Some of them have been dying to other other diseases that WWE and wrestling just have absolutely no part in causing. So this seems flimsy, but obviously when you have so many people die, and some of them were in the case as far as who were on the plaintiff side of being representative, seeing them try to push this along, I don't know, but it feels shitty to me, right? You have people grieving still, like wait, pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah, have a little bit of a heart, right?
Right. I know you're lawyers, and I don't know if that's a thing you have anymore, but
yeah, that's true. And here's the thing. I think that they have to pay attention to exactly what you said here. A lot of these deaths were not based on head injury. Mm-hmm. They were not based on any type of relation. Really, this is cancer. This is other things that were uncontrollable, and this happens. And you also have to think, and once again, we'll say this again, and we've said this plenty of times because of this lawsuit, but these people didn't just wrestle in WWE. Mm-hmm. If it was the case, I feel like maybe they have the right to do something, but almost all of the people, and I think everyone, I don't think almost, but I think everyone that is on that lawsuit has wrestled somewhere else, has been a part of other promotions, and you can't sit there and say that, simply put, WWE did this to me, because I'm sure you were hit in the head with a chair. I'm sure other things happen in other promotions that you probably don't want me to know, just so that you can get some money out of WWE.
Right.
And so that's got to be put into play. And I think it's tragic, and I get it. Lawyers don't care. They're there to make their money, to do their job, and they're doing it. But it doesn't make it any less shameful.
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, I'm not on the side of WWE on the fact of, well, they're always right. No, they're not always right. And I don't think that. I definitely think that they do owe wrestlers, for their time, and they do. They compensate them very well. And also, I think that, they do offer other programs. Now, do they offer a big medical package? No, they don't do that. Maybe they should. But at the same point, we've seen WWE work with people, and usually, for the most part, they're pretty good to their legends.
Right.
But, once again, WWE doesn't have these guys, the entire career. They can't hold their hands all the time. So who knows how this is all going to turn out. I'm like you, Paul. I feel like it's just kind of a shame, One last case we're going to talk about really quickly, and I think I'm going to let you kind of set this one up, Paul. But, we've seen TNA have some court dates because of the fact that, they've had some money owed to Airlux and all that type of thing, and they're still continuing on with these cases, even though they're long gone. They've already sold the company to Anthem. But what do you think about this whole thing? Kind of set us up on what's going on.
So what's happened here is that originally Audience of One, the production company that TNA used last year, and I think some of the year before, was suing TNA for the money that they're still owed, which is it's almost a $250,000. Which at the time when we were talking about it was a big deal because they had not been purchased by Anthem yet. And what's happened now is that Airlux and Ron Harris, the owner and operator of Airlux and all that, and one time a company in with Impact, were part of the defendant side of being sued here, along with Impact Ventures, which is TNA's parent company, and Dean Broadhead, who was their chief financial advisor. And Airlux and Ron Harris have essentially been dismissed because they cited that they aren't in Tennessee. They never worked anywhere else outside of their home area that made them significant enough money for them to be involved here. So they're no longer a part of the case, which leaves just Impact and Dean as the only remaining defendants. And it looks to be like TNA might settle out of court because they have a settlement conference coming up on April 5th. So, it's a possibility. But, with Anthem around, I don't know if this means as much. But, obviously, they do still have all these debts hanging over their head, which I think is the big thing to take away from this is there's still problems out there that they're facing. It's not like Anthem bought them and they've all gone away.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And, this is going to be, I'm sure, once again, a process that, TNA is going to have to deal with and go through. But, at least we kind of know where this is going a little bit. This is kind of an update. But, once again, this is something that's not going to get solved overnight. But, I'm glad that at least we're getting more information on what's happening and understanding that. Because, these are the type of things, these are the leftovers from the old regime in Impact. And, they're not always good, and it's going to have to be a cleaning up process, and that's exactly what's happening now. I think this is all trying to get cleaned up, Yeah,
the mountain is still a big one to climb.
Yeah, very much so. But yeah, everybody, that is quick hits for us. We've enjoyed talking a lot about this wrestling news from this week, but of course we have other stuff to do on this show. We're about to actually talk about Impact Wrestling, and we also want to let you know, don't forget, we are also going to, quickly kind of go through and preview Honor Rising that'll be coming up this weekend. So just to let you know that. But now it is time to talk some Impact Wrestling. Let's do it, Paul.
Yeah, let's just jump right in. I want to talk about we're going to save the big stuff for later, but I feel like news was so sad that we're going to talk about our favorite part of the show, and that's the Hardys. They open with Matt feeding George Washington, which is his giraffe, and he's talking about how he has to transform back into his Egyptian form, and he's kind of nervous about it because he has to give up his powers, and Vanguard 1 apparently has a drinking problem now, and it's this whole big deal that has Matt very scared. So he transfers his powers in his current vessel to Brother Nero, excuse me, and then Vanguard 1 teleports Matt to Egypt, and he's back in his Egyptian form, which is I forget the name.
Is it Mahafu or something? I don't know.
It's something like that. Anyway, he's in 7 AD. He's the King of Gold. Skarsgård, which is this big boat, is the dilapidated boat that had been hanging around the Hardy compound, is now a golden vessel, and he's bringing it back with him to house all of the tag team championships they're going to win. So he comes back with that, and then they teleport to CWF, the Mid-Atlantic promotion. They run into the number one contenders there who try to confront them, and they essentially don't really want the Hardys there because the champions have held the titles there for 12 years and all these other things, and they want to be the guys that beat them. They quickly do away with that, and the Hardys go in. We get another clip match of them wrestling the champions. They win, of course, and they then teleport back to Cameron and put the belts inside their new golden boat. Gary, what an adventure.
Oh, once again, it's just a fun adventure. I mean, my God. These two guys, you got comedy, you got, a journey, you got wrestling and all of this. And, honestly, it's just fun. That's the way I look at this. I don't take it too seriously. And I think a lot of people kind of look at this whole Hardy storyline as being hokey and a waste of time for wrestling. But no, it's not, because it keeps people hooked. It keeps them caring about what's going on. And I definitely think that's a good thing. So I just, I love their interaction, of course, here in Mid-Atlantic Wrestling. And I think they got their point across. And, once again, I mean, man, Vanguard won. He's just he's going through a crisis of some sort. He's drinking now. He dealt with a lot recently.
He did, and I guess when you're teleporting people through time and all over the states and the world, really, maybe you do have to knock a few back to get through. I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe teleporting, or not teleport. Oh, yeah, whatever. Teleporting people over to different places is kind of a job that kind of makes you thirsty. So he's got to quench his thirst somehow.
Maybe Mexico had a bigger effect on him than we realized, Gary.
True, but I mean, maybe tequila is his new favorite. But yeah, this is fun all the way around. I'm completely happy with this, and a lot of people are probably saying, "Man, we're just this is the same thing." But no, some of it may be similar. But I still say these guys are doing a great job entertaining us.
It's going somewhere, right? And you're obviously they're the TNA Tag Team Champions, but they seem nigh unbeatable right now, and they have nobody else in TNA who can really hang with them right now. So I feel like this makes sense, especially with the way that Matt Hardy likes to try to tell these stories, because I feel like he still has a big footprint in what's going on with the character, the Broken story here, that I feel like they're doing a good job with it, despite all the setbacks that are a big problem in TNA's tag team division.
Yeah, definitely.
Cody Rhodes is back. He shows up and explains that he was here originally to focus on Lashley, but he's not here to talk about Lashley now. He's talking about Brandy, and he brings up Moose and how Moose is sort of hanging on her, and Moose has her phone number, and all these other things, and he's not thrilled about any of the relationship that Moose and Brandy are having, and he goes so far as to call her a slut and all these other things, and Brandy has a big to-do and says, like, you're embarrassing me, I can't believe you're doing this, it's all in bad taste. And so he ends up kissing Brandy, he low blows Moose, Brandy is not happy, and then Cody grabs her and they take her to leave. But I can't say I'm totally into this. I like Cody better as a face right now, and the heel shtick, especially in TNA when they really do need another big face, to do this doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, me either. Really, here's the thing. I kind of appreciate the fact that they did bring up, Brandy is paying a lot of attention to Moose. She's spending a lot of time with Moose. That could kind of put a strain on your marriage, right? I mean, or even not a marriage, it's a boyfriend and girlfriend. I don't care who you are, or whatever relationship you have with a person, you care about them, and you're going to want to make sure that they feel the same way. And when people spend time together and a lot of time together, what happens, and you get a little nervous. And I like the fact that they brought that up because it's so quickly, all of a sudden out of nowhere, Moose and Brandy are best friends, and you're just thinking, wow, where did that come from? So I look at this, and Moose is a lot of fun to watch at times, but I look at, because he's so big and so menacing, but I look at this and say, it makes all sense in the world for Cody to be upset, and the way this went down, like where even he was trying to help Randy, he's like, oh yeah, I'm kidding, this is your job, I'm putting it on the line, and then he kicks him. So I think all of it worked out, but I'm like you. I'm not sold that I love this. Mm-hmm. The intangibles make sense. A lot of the things do make sense. I'm not hating on it too much, but I'm not so sold on it. It didn't really go over super well with me for some reason. I think it kind of fell a little. It's almost like it fell on deaf ears. Like I saw it, but it just kind of didn't soak in. And I think also I know Cody from doing, of course, the Bullet Club stuff and all that. And I don't know. I just didn't fall in love with it, man. I don't know why.
I mean, him as a heel with the Bullet Club sort of works because what the Bullet Club is, right? It's a parody. It's almost, it's a semi-serious parody of 90s stables. And these guys are completely over the top, and they're completely in love with each other and themselves and all these other things. And it works so much better when he has people to play off of, like Adam Cole, like the Young Bucks, like even Hangman Page to a certain degree, So, I mean, it works in Ring of Honor for me and in New Japan. But here it just, I don't, like, you're right. The story absolutely makes sense. And I'm not trying to bag on that. But one, this segment wasn't very good. And two, I don't like Cody feels like he should be a face here. He's not here very often. You could use him to help put over some heels at some point who, you have a lot more of. And he could sort of be almost like a gatekeeper if you really want him to be.
Yeah, and I could see that. And even if you don't want to make him just a straight lace, face, mm-hmm. at least let him play something similar to what he's doing over, like you said, in Ring of Honor and other places, New Japan, where, he is the American Nightmare. And there's a reason they call him that. But, when you have a match you want him to, have on Impact, and he's able to do it, showcase what he can do and do things like that, but don't put him in situations where he's made to try to look like this just really bad guy, and then you can't keep it going because they can't, because Cody's not going to be there long enough to keep anything serious going. Kind of like what I felt about this, so I don't know. I wish it was better because I really like Cody Rhodes, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah, just not working for me either. I agree. So Eli Drake and Tyrus have a match as well. It does not go any way like you would think because Drake gets a promo saying he's going to put Tyrus in his place and reminding us that he's the star here. It's not all about Tyrus. They get in the ring. Drake is sort of not wanting to fight him because obviously Tyrus could eat him if he wanted to. Tyrus refuses to sort of lay down for Drake, and he tells Drake to lay down for him. Drake refuses that. So Drake goes and lays out the referee to try to get himself DQ'd. And when the DQ doesn't come all that quickly, Drake sort of he promises Tyrus a raise. Tyrus refuses to shake his hand and sort of teases that he's going to beat him up, and then he hugs him. So everything seems to be okay again for now with these two.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because I really like Eli Drake, and I like what he does, and we saw this coming. These two guys were going to have a this big fight and all that, but I've really liked Eli Drake, I really have, and I think he's kind of grown on me so much. The one thing I will say, though, it's interesting. I don't know how they're going to handle it, but, I mean, I kind of look at this as, Tyrus may not have should have just been like, oh, sure, I'll take a raise. Yeah, we're buddies again. Because of the fact that now it went from, hey, we got some progression to, hey, we're flying around in the same pattern again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I don't like about it. And I think Eli Drake is fine on his own, and maybe he was going to get a chance to do more things on his own and not have Tyrus beside him. But I think they missed up an opportunity here. I really, really do, and I really wanted to see this feud continue.
Yeah, I can't say I blame them. They do need teams, and they have had some good segments together. So I feel like with a thin roster and what they're trying to do, I can't be too upset about this. But at the same time, I mean, I'm kind of with you. Moving forward with this really felt like something they needed to do, and they've kind of backtracked a little here. So unless Tyrus is willing to play second fiddle again to Eli, we could be right back to this in another month or so.
Yeah, and I want to know how much Eli Drake pays him.
Mm-hmm.
My God, I mean, if he's making enough money to make him, less mad, I mean, it must be a pretty good penny, So I don't know.
Yeah, nice pretty penny, right?
Mm-hmm.
Later on in the evening, Bram faces Jesse Goddard, who's got Eddie Kingston with him. Jesse wins in about 4 minutes. Goddard looks like the smartest man alive here because two guys who are trying to beat him down can't do it. That's the story.
It's just the story of the DCC, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they try to do something and they fail miserably, and I just think this was fine for what you got, but it was nothing spectacular. I just kind of found myself very indifferent with this match, to be honest with you. But I think Goddard is at least getting an opportunity to look good, if you want to look at it in that fashion. And maybe he is trying to get to another part of this roster. Maybe he does want to hit the main event scene and showcase what he can do. And so that's part of this. But outside of that, the poor DCC, they just can't win against one guy.
Right. And that's literally all that's happening there. So let's move on to some other things that are just sort of here, like Josh Barnett, who gets a video package, and they talk about his history in MMA and everything else in his relationship with Lashley and why this feud sort of matters, which is helpful. And then he gets a match against Bad Bones, who is from Westside Extreme Wrestling. He's been one of their top guys for a while. He's a very good wrestler. And they sort of let just Barnett squash him. So, obviously that's just what he's here for, but I'm not sold on this Barnett thing at all, Gary. It's just doing nothing for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And maybe this is better than having Ortiz out there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still not drawing me in. I think they really, really tried, right? I think they brought this video package to make you understand who he is. I think we had Josh Matthews and Pope try to give you some idea of who this guy was, but really, it doesn't give you, I think, this overwhelmingly, exuberant excitement about him or think of him any differently. Mm-hmm. I think you kind of see him as, oh, okay, an old UFC fighter. Okay, let's see how this goes. And that's about it. That's all you really think about him. And I hate that for this, this guy, because I'm sure he does have some great talent. And I'm sure, Paul, you probably watched this guy on other occasions, but just without anything else, the way he's coming across, it's not the best. He's good as an announcer with Jim Ross on Access TV, but as a, on air, on the mic kind of guy when it comes to just cutting a promo, mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm not even sure I'm sold on that. So I kind of look at this guy as a UFC guy that came out and could probably do something special, but at the same point, how special will it be? And he's so generic. I could care less what he does.
I will say this: the squash does make him look pretty powerful. Bad Bones gets in some offense here and there, but it's mostly Barnett working the big stuff that he seems to want to do. Got suplexes, strikes. He hits a big power bomb. He makes him tap out with a key lock. Like there's there's work being done here. It's just it's not resonating with either of us, and I don't know if that's a problem on our end, or if that's just that that initial promo was not great, and I'm not connected to them. There's nothing there that's drawing me in, so I don't know what they need to do, but something bigger than what they've been doing so far would certainly help, I think.
Yeah, I agree, and especially when you're putting a guy like this in a world title situation. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've got to build him up, and they're trying, and they're working at it, but man, it almost seems like, really, I mean, he paid the dues against Bad Bones, but he still needs to work on those dues, Right. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'm underselling this guy or whatever, but I'm with you. I'm really not super thrilled, and honestly, I could care less about that match.
Yeah, I'm with you. So the main event match for the evening is Trevor Lee facing off against DJZ, as DJZ is looking to get revenge on the guy who beat him for the X Division title. Lee goes out here. They have a pretty solid match in the 5 minutes that they get. Helms works the distraction. Lee rolls him up. It's the same. Sean's not here to sigh loudly about distraction roll-ups. But after the match, Lee goes to attack DJZ, but Andrew Everett comes in, makes a save, lays Lee out, and hits the shooting star press. I like the wrestlers, right? Like Trevor Lee, Andrew Everett, DJC. They're all amazingly talented people inside the ring. But the X Division has so much damage done to it that it's still, especially on this night, which they dedicate a lot to what we're about to talk about next. Don't get me wrong, but these guys feel like such an afterthought still. It's not. It's just I feel like I should be more invested than what I am.
Yeah, I'm totally agreeing with that, because it just seems like getting invested with this is so hard, and you want to try, you want to put things into it, but you just can't because it's just not there. So I don't know. I mean, I think that we're seeing something that has the possibility to be better, but I just don't know if it will.
Right. Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. So let's talk about the big thing that was going on this evening, and that is, of course, the wedding between Braxton Sutter and Laurel Van Ness. Almost a shotgun wedding, really, because if he doesn't do this, then bad stuff will happen to his lady love, Allie. So there's a bunch of segments before we get to the actual wedding. Like we get to see the Mean Girls, Maria, Sienna, and Laurel mock Allie some more. Mike Bennett talks to Braxton, who really just wants to talk to Allie and try to sort out what they're going through, but Mike is trying to keep him on point. He's feeding him drinks. Mike is drinking. He's bitching about Maria and tries to give him some wedding advice. Allie is just down in the dumps. She's super depressed. She ends up running into Braxton later on, though, and sort of questions, what are you doing? And all he can do is just apologize and be upset with the situation. And all these other things, they keep going, and the wedding finally comes. Bennett is out there with Sutter. They're waiting, of course, for the ladies to make their way down. Spud and Rex are there for some reason. Spud's the flower boy, because you got to highlight that gimmick still, I guess. We get to the ladies. Basically, the crowd is great during this. I want to say that much. They make this way better than I think this had any right to be. We get to the I do part. Laurel says I do. Braxton says he doesn't. Laurel gets all mad. Everything gets ruined. Allie finally has enough and finally starts striking back against everybody. Sutter makes a save. It's your typical wrestling wedding gone wrong. But the crowd really made this into something more. They're so into Allie. I'm into Allie. I was rooting for her. She finally gets that big kiss with Braxton at the end. The big explosion point has come, and it's kind of exciting, at least for the women on this front. They lucked into Allie, but it's worked. This was cool.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is one of those things that we've been, kind of building up to, and I think to some form it paid off. Now, completely, I don't know. I don't know if I'm really ready to say it was just like, oh, this is the most amazing wedding at a wrestling event I've ever seen, where it's going to get destroyed or something bad's going to happen. So I can't say that right now. But what I will say though is, I think the storyline has worked up to this point, and this whole production and everything the way they set it up, it made sense. It was credible. So I mean, the way they built this, to me, is just they're right on their game and what they wanted to do. So I'm glad of that part. Now, some of the execution's tough, and I get that. I think for the most part, you had everybody do well, but some of the people in the background were just kind of cheesy. So that's the only thing I will say. But once again, we're talking about a wrestling wedding, so you're going to get that. I think I kind of got the idea they were trying to do a little bit of the whole Stephanie thing, being angry, when Stephanie her wedding was ruined and things like that. But I don't know. Here's the one thing I think I'll have to say is it's kind of funny that the one thing keeping Braxton Sutter, and they revealed this, is that if he would have gone and got back with Allie, that he was going to get her fired, right? And she'd be ruined. So that's the only reason he did it, because he loved her and he wanted to keep her around. But come on, that's just so far fetched. That was the reason, really? I'd be like, honey, get fired. I'll you can come stay at my house,
Right.
I mean, come on, you don't need it, So I just thought that was a little. I wish they'd had something better. Like, I wish there was some other reason besides you're going to get her fired. And if there was something like really terrible, then I could totally understand why this guy has been wasting our time, or acting like he's going to get married and then doesn't. So, and maybe like you said, you pointed out, not maybe the best wedding, wrestling wedding you've ever seen, but it was pretty good. And I got one other thing: why and where I guess just forgot, but why do we have what's his name interrupting and taking over the fighting for Braxton Sutter? And I'm trying to think of what's his name now. Eric. Oh my God.
Robbie E. Was that
Robbie E? Robbie E. There you go. I knew it had an E in it. Why did Robbie E get involved in this?
I wish I could tell you, man. Like, there's some stuff going on here. I obviously glazed over a lot of the bigger stuff here because the wedding segment is very long. I can only say that I don't know. I really don't. Like, he's not really doing much. So, I mean, and Robbie E's had... I can't remember if he's really been a big problem with Bennett or not. That's how much of an afterthought Bennett has really been in all this, because it's really been about all the ladies. So, I mean, yeah, he's there. Good for him, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I know, right? I don't know. It was just kind of interesting to me. That all of a sudden, but I'm sure we'll have it. Maybe they needed, Braxton Sutter to have that tag team partner, right? Someone to kind of help him, because it's going to be Bennett and now I'm blanking on his name already. Sandow. I can't think of his TNA name.
Aaron Rex.
Aaron Rex, yes. Aaron Rex will probably be a tag team, and of course, Braxton Sutter's going to need some help. So there you go. Now he has help, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Robbie and Aaron Rex have had issues recently. That's where that's coming in now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, this will be, something they'll build on. I am glad we got the payoff, right? Mm-hmm. You got the whole love story. So now we'll see where Maria goes from here and how she's going to torture Allie and Braxton Sutter both. So this will be fun. I'm looking forward to action.
They have to follow up on this well with Allie now, because they do have the opportunity to really make somebody who can stand out and sort of at least be the benchmark in the Knockouts division for a while. And speaking of that, I forgot to bring it up. Jade gets a promo with Rosemary where she talks about how she's not done with Rosemary. And Rosemary's like, well, I'm done with you. I won Monsters Ball. I'm still the champ. Everything that you could really do to me is it's not going to do anything for you. Jade challenges her to a last knockout standing match to sort of put an exclamation point on the end of the feud here. And Rosemary accepts, saying that, you can have another dance with the demon. And Jade's like, well, we're playing my game now, so enough of your silliness. We're in Jade Town. So this has been an afterthought in the wake of the wedding stuff. So much so that I almost forgot to bring it up. But they've had great matches, so.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, you're right. The matches have been good. I mean, they really have, and I'm sure the next match they have will be just as good as well. I mean, it's just that really, and it's kind of weird to say, but the Impact Women's Championship has not been a big important piece of their product,
right?
And it's been in the background for a long time, and it's not that there's anything wrong with Rosemary. It's just the fact that they have not made that the priority. This has been about the marriage and that whole process, the whole wedding and everything go in, and it's easy to kind of get away from that. But it's fine. I think they'll have a good match when they do, and the way they set up, I don't have any qualms with it. It didn't really make Rosemary look great,
right?
But I think it was okay. Jade, I can still understand. She's still not exactly comfortable in those shoes of being on the mic. You can kind of tell. So,
I completely agree with you. That's Impact for the week, though. Hopefully they can follow up on this well. I'd love to see Allie become a big time superstar for him. She's a great worker. So.
Yeah, exactly. And Paul pointed out that people want to be into her, and I know there's a lot of people who probably do want to be into her. So.
Oh my!
I didn't say anyway. But just gotta throw that out there. But all right, let's move on. Let's transition from that. I don't know how to do that, but let's try. But we are going to be talking about a superstar of the week this week, and it'll be a lot of fun because we have some interesting names on our list this week. But before we do that, we're going to stop off and talk a little bit of Honor Rising. That's right. We have 2 big shows coming your way this next weekend, and we want to kind of give you a quick preview of what's going to go down. So let's go ahead and do that, Paul.
Yeah, let's do it. These shows take place on the 26th and 27th. Over in Japan, they're going to be both in Kuroken Hall. The big thing here that I think is worth talking about, because I don't know if we want to go over every match in depth. It's going to take a long time, but the Bullet Club is highly featured, and they haven't really been a big feature so far, what with Suzuki Gun and all of them coming back in. So they're sort of using this where they are a big deal, at least as far as Ring of Honor is concerned, working them into these shows very nicely. On the first show, I think the big things that are worth talking about, you have Adam Cole and Kenny Omega teaming up. This is Kenny Omega's return to New Japan now to take on the Briscoe brothers. And the random pairing of Delirious, Jushin Thunder Liger, and Tiger Mask are going to take on LIJ, Bushi, Evil, and Sonata for the openweight 6-man titles. Everything else is sort of standard fare. Lots of Bullet Club matches. War Machine's also taking on the Young Bucks on the show, which should be fantastic. You have Dalton Castle. Silas Young is also here. Lots of the bigger... Jay Lethal, of course. Lots of the bigger names from Ring of Honor are all here. This first show doesn't look as impressive as the second one to me, but there's a lot of good stuff here to be had. And, I mean, that main event and War Machine and Young Bucks are sure to be must-watch.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I love War Machine and the Young Bucks. I mean, right now, one of the best tag teams, in the world. I mean, so how can you go wrong? And I'm looking forward to this as well. This is going to be a lot of fun. I look for War Machine to really wear on the Young Bucks, but I think, the Young Bucks are so quick. They're so agile, and, I think some way they'll probably come up with a victory. But, this is going to be really fun to watch.
Yeah, I also forgot to... Punisher Martinez is here, and he's palling around with LIJ. He's got a 6-man tag on this first show with Hiromu Takahashi and Tetsuya Naito to take on Dalton Castle, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Ryusuke Taguchi. So I think the thing I really want to put across here is not only that you're getting a lot of the New Japan stuff that's going on, but there's a great snapshot of what's going on in Ring of Honor right now. And, of course, that it does revolve a lot around the Bullet Club. But I think you're getting feuds everywhere. So Cody and Hangman Page are taking on Jay Lethal and Shibata on that first night too. So lots of good stuff on that first show. The second show has the much bigger card, right? You have the ROH World Title being defended as Yoshihashi gets his match with Adam Cole since he pinned him at New Year's Dash. Hiroki Goto is defending the Never Openweight title against Punisher Martinez, which should be very interesting to watch that one. And then the main event, Bullet Club. The big hitters, Cody, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks taking on the Briscoe brothers, Kazuchika Okada and Will Ospreay in the main event, and you got a lot of undercard stuff going on here too. But man, the 3 big matches there are potentially huge.
Oh yeah, I mean they're going to be exciting, and I'm looking forward to those especially because I mean those are some matches that I think a lot of us probably thought, oh man, that could only be dreamed of, and so I mean that's what's the positive about that, and I'm really looking forward to those as well. I mean, this partnership with Ring of Honor, you know, and the way this is all worked out, it's actually getting to be just as positive as it's ever been because of the talent that they have right now and some of these matchups they can have. So I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, these 3 big matches to me will be quality, and there's something that, if nothing else, we can watch those matches. If we don't have time to watch anything else, we have time to watch at least those few matches. So, no, I think it's really exciting. I didn't know if you wanted to focus on any of those or...
No, I mean, just because I know you don't watch as much New Japan, but you do watch Ring of Honor. So I just, I felt like it's worth touching on. I don't know if me and Sean are going to review these or not. I'm sure we might at some point. I don't know. But War Machine's also taking on Guerrillas of Destiny on that 27th show. I should really mention. If you can't watch the first one, I would definitely make sure you can try to watch the second one because there's a lot of good stuff to be had on that one and a lot of interesting pairings. So, I mean, obviously both are worth your time. And if you're a Bullet Club fan, I mean, must watch for both nights.
Oh, definitely. You're exactly right about that. So, yeah, I mean, for anybody out there, if you want to go check out that show, Honor Rising is going to be happening this weekend, and you really, honestly, don't want to miss it. If you had to focus on one, like Paul said, focus on the second one.
Yeah.
But
New Japan
yeah,
World,
I mean,
they're both on there too. I should mention that too.
Yeah, you're right. And New Japan, honestly, and I've used New Japan World. It's great. I mean, it really is. And it's just, if you really like wrestling, trust me, it's worth your subscription.
Yeah, I've never had a problem with the stream, if we want to talk about that a little bit. Like, network stuff on the WWE, I've had a little bit of problems with. I've never had an issue with New Japan at all.
Isn't that wild?
That's weird, yeah.
And you watch it live. This is like, you're not watching it on demand. You're watching it as it happens, right?
Most of the time, yes.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's really interesting. I locally in the same country, problems. Halfway across the world, no problems. That's.
Oh man, poor WWE. Now they look like trash now.
But... They look silly. Yeah.
No, I mean, but that's good. I mean, that's really a good endorsement too, because there's nothing worse than trying to watch something that freezing or cutting off. I hate it. So it's good to hear that New Japan's got it right when it comes to streaming service. So, well, look forward to those Honor Rising shows. But yeah, guys, there's really only one thing we have left to do on the show, and that is crowning Superstar of the Week. So we're going to do that now, and we are going to start this thing off, Paul, by giving a point to Kevin Owens.
I mean, boy, howdy. He cut an amazing promo to open Raw this week, really getting into his problems with Jericho and Sami Zayn and everything else. And then later on, of course, in the night squashes Sami Zayn. And the idea of him and Joe and Triple H maybe in a sort of new age authority stable is looking mighty tantalizing at this point.
I agree. Man. And, we were kind of wondering how he was going to address everything. And it was kind of funny the way he addressed the Jericho thing. Just didn't say anything.
Yeah.
I loved it. We got 2 points heading over to Natalya.
Natalya had a pretty... I shouldn't say pretty. It was a good match with Nikki Bella, last woman standing. Me and Gary weren't exactly big fans of the finish, but the work up till then had been really good. And Natty... really got a win I think she needed.
I agree, and she needed, to really have a chance to shine, and I think this gave her that opportunity. Even if, they may not have a giant role for her coming up, at least she has this under her belt if they do need her, Mm-hmm. And I want to mention also really quickly, Alexa Bliss was also slated at possibly being at this point, but we kind of had to go over match quality and not put the title into play because, sometimes, you got to kind of say, hey, well, which one was a better match? And this one, I think, was. So, we got 3 points heading to Trevor Lee.
Trevor Lee defends the X Division title, has a pretty solid match with DJZ, sets up the the Andrew Everett stuff to go forward. Like we said during the Impact review, these guys are great workers. Their in-ring stuff is top-notch, but when it comes to TNA trying to make you care about a feud they're in, I mean, it is a struggle.
You're exactly right. And I mean, it's just going by what the match was and how exciting and, all that, it was definitely of worth and quality. So we had to give it some love. We really did. So, and we got 4 points heading over to Braun Strowman.
Yeah, Braun had a surprisingly good matchup with the Big Show on Raw this week. Really got a chance to highlight stuff that we haven't seen from him before, because instead of just murder, death, killing, he kind of got a chance to show that he can do some other things that we haven't seen a man of his size really do before, like the little flip over thing out of the armbar, or a lot of other moves. And Big Show looked great too. I really should mention that. Like, the shape he's gotten into is impeccable. But Braun gets the win. It was a surprisingly good match, and Braun absolutely deserves 4 points for me, Gary.
Me too, and heck, even Kenny Omega had to weigh in on it, so it shows you it had some kind of credibility, right? But yeah, okay. Well, we got one last one. It's our superstar of the week with 5 points. We got Pete Dunne.
Pete Dunne, yeah, a great match on NXT this week with Mark Andrews. Not close to what they got to accomplish during the UK tournament, but it was still super good. And absolutely, I think the best match we saw on TV all week, bar none. And you can't say enough good things about Pete Dunne, Gary.
I know you can't. You're exactly right about that. Quickly becoming one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this guy is probably going to get even more points on our list here. But at least this week, he definitely gets some huge props from us. And so good on him for sure. But yeah, that is our show. We've had a lot of fun here. We've had a lot of great content to talk about, lots of great news, of course, talking some Impact, and of course, jumping into, crowning a superstar of the week. So we've had a lot of cool stuff to get into. Once again, if you want to come and check out more of our shows, find out more content, maybe find out some of Sean's opinions about a few things that we didn't talk about. Well, they'll be there for you available on Monday. We're going to be doing episode 236, part 1 for you guys. And, of course, that'll have news and along with Ring of Honor. So trust me, there's some great content on that. Plus, whatever Sean wanted to talk about that he did not get to talk about tonight, that will take place on that show. So if you want to hear Sean talk about a certain thing we talked about, maybe, or you want to know something, well, hey, shoot us a message on our Facebook page. Also, you can email us at wrestlingtothemax@gmail.com. There's plenty of ways to find us, so just contact us and we will get back in contact with you, or we'll just answer your question here on this show. That's the best way to do it. And if you want Sean to answer some things that you didn't hear him talk about, just do that. Contact us. Contact Sean. And you can also hit him up on Twitter at W2MSean if you want to go find him on Twitter. That's probably the easiest way. But besides that, I want to let you guys know, once again, don't forget W2M Network, or of course just Wrestling to the Max on whatever device you use. If you want to subscribe to either one of those, you can find us easily, and you'll get us in your dock whenever it comes out of any of the shows we do. Plus, of course, W2Mnet.com. That's the place where you go find us and find all the great content that we have to offer, along with, a lot of the written stuff that we do. So you don't want to miss any of that. Go check out that site now if you haven't checked it out already. And I think that'll pretty much seal the deal here, Paul. We've had a great show. And, of course, we want you all to know that we thank you for coming and giving us your time. And we will see you guys next week.
Absolutely. Next week, we'll see you guys later.